All right, guys, today we have Jon Scotty, founder of Slate Creative, videographer, and also one of the biggest, to me, I think, food photographers and videographers in Austin, Texas. Jon, thank you so much for being on here.
Man, thank you guys for having me.
The boy.
Bro, I mean,
Jon Scotty, bro.
right out the gate, bro, like every conversation we have is a podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy that we're finally sitting down, recording it,
Dude.
and, hopefully just dropping the same bombs we always do.
It's cool that you're like the first podcast too. It was either you or Jasmine. Like I knew that we would have a great conversation regardless if we like sat down. Because we do this in like text messages and DMs. We'll have like these crazy conversations like, yo, why are we not podcasting?
Dude,
that?
every day. And like, yeah.
And a little background for what Creatively Stressed is, Ian. Like, we've had this conversation.
Yeah, so a little background of is it this camera? A little background on the podcast basically is a lot of podcasts just kind of like explain like as a creative, the pricing or just like how to run a business or the whole thought process of like how to be an entrepreneur in the creative space. But for me personally, and I think he can contest, is we wanted to humanize the experience of like what it is to be a creative.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people like pull back the curtain on what that actually looks like, the stress, the late nights, the early mornings, just the entire methodical process of like being a human in that space. And so I think we wanted to touch on that with this podcast, is like really humanizing who Jon Scotty is, not like Jon Scotty's the food video guy or runs a business. Like, who is Jon? What is his habits and how does he operate in the space? And like, how does he maintain his stress levels and what do those habits look like? So yeah, that's kind of the process.
Yeah, and then, just for the viewers as well and the listeners, how long have you been in this creative industry? And like, give us a little bit of experience up from when you started and all the way to 2024 now.
When I started way back in the day as a kid shooting like skate videos.
Yep.
I think that's what first got a camera in my hand, like a little skater kid. It was right around the time that like this one skater, Ryan Sheckler, was getting really big.
Oh, dude, I loved Ryan.
Yeah, so he had like the sponsorships and like a TV show on MTV, and he got big off of just posting skate videos online. So every kid was like, oh, I want to get a camera, I want to make skate videos, I want to get sponsored. So that's what first got a camera in my hand.
Just a side note, who is that guy who did Fantasy Factory? Is that
Rob Dyrdek.
Rob Dyrdek was kind of in that same time frame, right?
Yeah, they got really big off of their content, which I mean nowadays that's how everyone gets big.
Yeah.
But they were some of the first people, at least in like the skate industry, which I was really plugged into as a kid, who got big off content. So I was always like shooting little skate videos with my friends, whether it was on like a little like Sony VHS dad cam or eventually like a GoPro, or I was even shooting skate videos on my little iPad because it was just the only camera I had at the time.
I love that.
That's what got a camera in my hand just at a young age. And then I moved to Austin with no plan, never really took videography, photography seriously up until I got this marketing job, which was just a whatever marketing job, just needed something to do.
Yeah.
And it was right when social media marketing was getting really big. And at the time I was just doing like email, newsletters, blog posts. And they're like, hey, we need to get on Instagram. We need to start posting to Facebook.
Right.
We need content. You're a young guy, here's a camera, go shoot us some content. So I was like, okay, I got to learn how to use this camera now.
Yeah.
So I just started DMing people who I followed, because the creative scene in Austin has always been huge. So I just started DMing people like, hey man, love your work. Can I buy you a coffee? Maybe you show me how to work this camera. And just by meeting people through the power of social media, I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. I found out like I really like photography and videography, started picking up some food clients just on the side, built that up, and then just started doing that full time.
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like there's a lot of people in Austin that like when they think of food like visuals, it's like even Jay Kim of Cilantro, like he knows you as well. Like he's like, yeah man, I know Jon Scotty a long time. He's been in the food like industry for a while as far as like being the creative in it. Yeah.
Love that guy. And it's testament to the power of just community and your network. That dude I met probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And I went to his restaurant. I made a quick little video. Dude, I'm so glad you mentioned him, bro, because like he has been such an impactful person in my life and just the things that I know and like my perception of just like And what we do, there's like a lot of ways to do videography. What I do a lot of is I make ads. Like I work in like marketing.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is selling a product or a service. So he's a businessman. You know, Jay Kim, founder of Cilantro, huge restaurant in Austin and Central Texas. I made a video for him. Looking back, it was nothing special. Nothing that any kid with a camera could have done.
Right.
You know? But he said, I liked that you delivered the video so quickly. And I was like, oh, really? Like, that's what stood out to you? What about, like, you see that transition?
Yeah.
You see that slow-mo queso pour? He's like, yeah, no, the video's good. You gave it to me in, like, by the next day. He's like, I posted it. I shared it. You know, he's like, it got a lot of traction. And he's like, to understand, like, oh, that's what he noticed out of that whole process is, like, the speed. And I'm like, oh, you know, he's a businessman.
Yep.
Like, he's trying to make money. He needs creative to make money. And he liked that I delivered the video so quickly. Like, oh, okay. So business people aren't looking for like the most technical color grade transition, clean framing.
Yeah.
They're just looking for an
efficiency.
Asset that's efficient, that's on time, that's good, but it doesn't have to be a cinematic masterpiece. As far as they, like, obviously we want to make it look good.
Right.
But if you're in the business of, you know, if you're doing this as a business, you have to think in terms of business. Yeah. Like, things like that make a big difference.
And this is a good segue, actually, the fact that you talked about social media and business. Like, and I think, you know, Ian and I talked about this, like, you're a very business oriented person, you know, like, tell us a little bit about that, like your process in it. As being in a creative, what you just described, like how business aren't sometimes looking for all that, but like the way you approach it, I feel like has now been like the foundation of what you do now, correct?
That's true. And I think there's two sides. There's the passion and the work.
Yes.
Like, I am so fulfilled when I go out with Ian, Jasmine, I want to shoot with you, CK Moore, and we just go out and shoot for fun. That's the work I look back on and I'm like, man, like I love doing this. And early on, we all want the work projects to be the passion projects. And then what we realize is like, we have these amazing ideas, you know, so many things pop into our mind.
Still never shot that Mustang thing.
The Mustang thing. And like even projects that were like, oh, this brand will be perfect for this idea. And we're storyboarding, mood boarding, scripting. And they're like, just give us a hype video. And we're like, the same hype video that everyone else is posting? They're like, yeah, just give us a hype video. And we're like, what about this cinematic story that we put our passion and into? I think we realized, like, okay, passion doesn't always sell. Like, business people just want, a lot of times, what's been proven to work. If we can put our own spin on that, awesome. But they don't care about that as much. So why don't we save our creative energy for ourselves and just put out work that we're really proud of, with no pressure, no creative director above us saying, well, you have to show this logo. You have to frame it this way. Make sure you show these 3 product features. You know, it's like, it's just whatever we want to do. So there's the passion projects and there's the work. And they ideally, they align. They don't always have to.
I think you're really good at like compartmentalizing that. Like, I think a lot of people, myself included and Jasmine especially, we get really caught up in like having to everything has to be art. And I think you're really good at like you know, separating the two, like business and art. And so I kind of want you to touch base on like how you develop that characteristic, because a lot of people with the imperfectionism and like the overthinking in them, you know, like having to be perfect for a business when it technically doesn't. Like, what's your process going into just the mindset of like separating those things and like delivering still good work, but at the same time not really worrying about it having to be perfect? Because overthinking is so huge now in today's society.
I think that's so true, bro.
So bad.
That goes through my head every day.
Yes.
But I think to answer that question, I would say that the passion, like I said, the passion doesn't always doesn't always sell. So it's like, okay.
Rarely does.
Rarely. Like, we have like our story, like we have what we want to create. And I think other creators admire that. It's not always the best way to sell a product, because like, I look at it this way, like the numbers don't lie. If a business is like, hey, this is the kind of content that works well with us, And I'm like, it's not something that I'm like super passionate about, but I can help you create it. I can put my spin on it. And if the numbers show that that sort of content's working well, it's like, well, you're in the business of selling a product. And at the end of the day, you have to report numbers. You want those numbers to be up. And maybe this passion story that I want to tell isn't what's going to sell your product. Okay, I'll go do that myself. So if I'm in the business of marketing, marketing has to have a return. So like there's this one medical device I shoot for. Love the company, love the brand, love the founder. We did a video with this NFL player about his recovery story. And he used this device to recover and then like get in the best shape of his life. And I'm like, oh, like let me do this whole like story and narrative about like his injury and then his recovery and his like depression and then like finding this machine, recovering, getting the best shape of his life. And I had this whole narrative and I sent it to the client and he's like, yeah, it's really good. It's that whole like storyline part. Just cut all that out. Just get to the part where he's using the product, And I'm like, oh man, like I would love to show that. But like I said, he's in the business of selling his product.
Yeah.
So the story doesn't always sell. He just wants to show NFL athlete using his device, cut it up to a 30-second ad, post it.
Yeah. And
he's marketing.
And you love the business side of things, I think, which helps, right? Like it helps you detach from like, okay, I understand this guy is wondering if the juice is worth the squeeze. Right.
Exactly.
Like he's like, that ain't it. Like, I just want something quick that's going to show the product, and we don't need this entire monologue, backstory documentary on YouTube. Right.
Yeah.
And so I personally have a hard time struggling with like wanting to interject my personal creativity into someone else's business. But then I think about it from my perspective as a business owner, like, would I want someone interjecting their creativity into what I want to deliver, what I want to produce? So you have to think from a business standpoint, like, that's not your fucking business.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. And at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I have clients that I really like and I really want to see them succeed, and I'm invested in their business, and I like that I can play a part in their growth. So at the end of the day, if like we're all sitting down, we all agree on something, there's going to be some compromises, like, but as long as we agree on the creative at the end of the day, maybe I want to tell more of the story. Maybe they just want to get straight to the point. Okay, I'll compromise this, you compromise that. At the end of the day, we're happy, we're working together, we're making a difference. Like if we can say that, I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I kind of want to like bring this up into the conversation of just like with the business and how like everyone's into social media, and the fact that like the clients that you have, they always want like, when we want this specific thing, it's okay, we don't want the whole like creative story monologue, right? And Ian has told me like, because we had a whole pre-conversation with of what we wanted to talk about, right? And he's mentioned compartmentalizing, and we feel like you are very good, and tell us the truth, like we feel like you're very good at compartmentalizing social media, of not being on there so much or not having to care about what you put on there.
Dude, John's just good at like living life.
Yeah.
Somehow like
I'm
somehow
curious.
Like, well, for me, it's like balance is such a like a mystical creature, and I just look at John's life and I'm like, how the shit does this dude balance all this work, have this like life that you see, like he's out boarding, he's enjoying Austin, he's still working, he's at coffee shop, like. Yeah, I want to know more about that too.
Yeah. Oh my God,
this is interesting too.
Thanks for saying that.
Because like one, you don't post it on from a camera. Like I feel like I know from Ian, like we post shit from like we record on the cameras, we set up a tripod. You're just having fun and using your phone footage, right? And just again living life.
That's what I'm saying. John's just like really good at living life, and I think you should really talk about like your overall like daily habits and how you manage to juggle. Because you have a lot of businesses that you shoot for. Like I have to schedule a calendar invite to hang out with this dude.
That's what we did.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, bro. Is getting better at just like the interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
Because I do have a big workload.
Yes.
I have a big capacity. So like, I feel like I can just handle a lot. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, cool. Like the opportunity's there. I'll take it on and I'll manage it. Like I'm confident in myself to be able to manage everything that I'm taking on.
Yeah.
But that's partly because, I do have good work-life balance, I think. Like as much as I'm working, I'm also making sure I'm taking like moments of like mindfulness, you know what I mean? Just going out in Austin, enjoying the sunlight, the fresh air, the parks, running around the trail. Like if I wasn't doing that, bro, you talk about creatively stressed.
Yeah.
There's no way
I don't know how you do it, bro.
Dude, I think it's the balance is the right word.
Yeah. Which is fascinating because balance has been such a hard struggle for me. It's like I put energy where energy needs to go. So I don't know how to like distribute energy, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, my business needs my energy. That's where it's going, not into my health and fitness. So I find it super fascinating that and I would love to like know what your daily routine looks like. Like Jon somehow manages to still go outside and get sun every day. He goes for a run. He gets a workout in. Like he's eating healthy. He fasts sometimes with me.
Yeah.
He practices mindfulness.
Fast, by the way.
I know we do need a fast. Like what does a day-to-day look like for you and juggling your workload and then still trying to have a life?
Well, I would say one of the biggest things that I've done recently that's made a big impact is finding people I can outsource to who are trustworthy. I think they were always there. I think for me, it was just like, I do take on a lot of work. And before I was doing it all myself.
Yes.
And there would just be some long nights where I'm like, this isn't sustainable. And I'm like, what's the solution here? I don't want to take on less work. I want to keep taking on as much and more. But to do that, I need to start trusting people to help me out. And it's like, you've helped me several times. And I'm like, if only I could just like make like 10 Ians, that'd be perfect. But it's just like I've thankfully found some people specifically with the editing.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah, that I can trust and I can send because I'll shoot all day. Like we're all probably the same. We're like, we'll shoot all day, especially like a cool, fun project. Like, yeah, bro, get me out there. But the editing sometimes is like the biggest time consumer. So I think that's another testament to shooting real, like simple, straightforward projects that don't require a lot of creative energy. There's no real crazy pre-production. You shoot it, send it to an editor, they chop it up, send it back, client's happy. Yeah. So utilizing a lot of help, trusting people to do good work and also motivating them to do good work. Yeah. That's one thing that is a really underrated thing is that as a leader, as a director, you have to create a vision that people are motivated to help you with. And I think you do that really well. Yeah. Jasmine does that really well. Just getting people excited about the work. Yeah. So I think utilizing help and then also prioritizing, like I said, the balance of like going outside, fresh air, nature, like even sometimes like we all have like, we're all eating meals. Make sure you're eating a healthy meal. Yeah. We're all driving in the car. Make sure you're maybe like being like, take like a minute of like mindful meditation, whatever helps you. Like there's time in the day for whatever you want to do. We're all on social media. Yep. Make sure you're following content that inspires you. Yeah. Motivates you. Make sure one thing I love to do is like leave comments on people's posts or stories sometimes it is through the client account.
I love it, dude. I'm like, well, at least Jon saw the video. Uncle Julio.
If a random restaurant sends you like a really specific DM, you're like, how does this restaurant know it was me?
Yeah, Scotty. Yes, Jon Scotty.
Yeah, it's me. But being mindful of like just every moment can be energizing or depleting. It can be exciting or anxiety. It can be good or bad. And I think just being more mindful that every moment there's something to be grateful for, something to admire, something to inspire, something to make you happy.
Oh, look at this guy.
I think from an outside perspective too, I think you definitely prioritize like living life more than you do like the business, which is a great thing. And you stay off of social media, which I think is very depleting in your energy sources.
It can be. I think it definitely can be. I think, social media is why I'm here right now. It's how I know you two. Yes. It's how we're getting this information out that'll hopefully, help a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah. But it can also be a lot of toxicity, a lot of negativity. And I think, going back to just like the daily habits, I look at our brains as like processors, but it's only processing what you put in. Yep. So you're on social media. Are you looking at street fights? Are you looking at car accidents? Are you looking at like travel, inspiration?
Yep. I always love I think Julia said this all the time. She's a content creator, not a content consumer.
Yeah.
And I think when you get on your phone, as if you're running a business or you're creative and you suffer from imposter syndrome or overthinking, or you're just like, why is my life not this cool? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you become a content consumer doing this instead of like going on and being a creator and just posting or getting inspiration and then getting off the app.
Yeah,
exactly. Social media is supposed to be social.
Yes.
Like, I love that we could DM someone who inspires us, Volandis, Daniel Schiffer, you know, whoever it may be to you, and they could see it and respond back.
Yes.
Like, that's the coolest thing in the world, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I DM'd you one day, and now look at us now.
I know.
You know what I mean? I saw you on Instagram, bro. Like,
We
look
all
at us
met
now.
through Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I've actually FaceTimed people through the Instagram app. Actually,
Have you?
yeah, I have. Like, I have a friend. His name's Dustin Nichols in North Carolina. FaceTimed him, and another one, Jose in Miami. Yeah, I literally just
crazy.
FaceTimed them. And they're like, "Yo, I've never used this before." I'm like, "Yo, but me, I've used it like so many times." I'm like,
No, yeah, it's
second nature.
It's a great tool. I mean, I shot my short film with a guy I met randomly from Florida.
Yeah.
Like, he just hit me up. He's like, you want to make something cool? And I thought it was going to be this like small, minute thing. I was like, yeah, fly to Austin. We'll create something cool. And he's
That's
like,
crazy.
all right, bet.
That's
And then
Yeah.
it built into this massive thing. But yeah, I just met a stranger online and we created one of my best pieces
That's what I'm
with someone random
about, bro.
from Instagram.
That's
Or
what
a
I'm
film
talking
called
about.
Hands by Say Something
short film
Productions.
fans
And
on YouTube.
Shameless
put that
plug.
plug in.
Yeah.
I think I got like one last ask as a question too as well, because you are this person now, right? And going with the whole thing of like what have been your like creatively stressed moments in life? What were you before you built up this now maintain balanced lifestyle? Like what was it before until you finally found that moment? Aha, this is what I truly needed to do. What was it? What was your life before that?
Man, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who are really strong in something at a point in life, it's because they were very weak in that thing before. You know what I mean? So I think it's always funny when people call me like a really social person, because I just grew up very, very shy, very insecure.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just very confused and anxious, like a lot of young people are,
Yeah.
but like especially like, you know, some people more than others. And I just went to college for a little bit, realized it was not really gonna get me anywhere. So I think if there was any real like pivotal moment in life, it was just like, I remember I was sitting in my mom's garage. I was like 20, maybe 21, working at Chick-fil-A, managing a Chick-fil-A. People like 3 times my age coming to me like, Mr. John, can I go on break? Can I get a refill? I'm like, I'm 21 years old, bro. I don't care. But you know what I mean? No, not
Yeah.
really. But like, just like, you know, wondering what the rest of my life was going to look like. And I was like, okay, I got to figure something out. So I was like reading all these books. And the one thing for me, I was like, I realized I didn't want to do the work. I was looking for the hack. I was like, what can I do that's going to be quick, easy, and I don't have to have any particular skill in? And the answer, I mean, people will try to sell you this idea of like, get rich quick. But really, it always comes down to just doing the work.
Yep.
And the work is your network is your net worth. You know, people who communicate well get further in life. People who, you know, how can you add value to people's lives? And it's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the biggest thing that I realized was like, okay, the environment I was in was not getting me anywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, thankfully, like one of my sisters had moved to Austin. I'd visit her a few times. She was like, hey, you know, you could just move here. Like there's plenty of stuff to do here.
Yep.
And so I visited for a summer, met a few people. I was like, I can see myself living here, and just never left. And so I moved here. And then, like I said, the one thing I'm not going to do is nothing. I'm not going to sit back in my room and just think that things are just going to land in my lap.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I found the value in just getting out there. One of my good friends, CJ Finley, always says exposure equals opportunity.
That's so good.
That's such a game changer, bro.
Yeah, it's
getting
so
out
good.
there,
Yeah.
getting around people.
Yeah, dude, and you know everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you see John on the street, say hi, because this man will be your best friend next day.
He's also not just in Austin. He's everywhere too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know,
So I guess some key takeaways would just be like Jon practices good mindful habits. He gets out in the sun, he stays off of social media when it's not needed, and he just practices balance, which I think is a myth, but at the same time, it seems to be working well for you. So I guess what you want to ask him about his most creatively stressed moment, since that's kind of like kind of like the key point of what started this whole podcast.
And I think, you know, we want to make our stories relatable with this series, you know, and, you know, if you were to name one specific moment in your lifetime, right, what has been your most creatively stressed moment, you know,
and how'd you handle it?
One specific moment, I think the one thing that comes to mind is I think it's that for me, it's like I had this idea that like the trajectory of like the videographer is like, oh, eventually you just go on to like make a Hollywood movie. Like that's just kind of how you keep climbing that ladder. And I think the realization of like, I don't think I want to do that sort of work.
Right.
You know, I think that there are people who are better suited at that kind of thing than me. And it's like, who do I want to be? Like, you know, we all go to work, we use a camera, but we do such different things. And then you have the people like, shout out Blake Takushi, he's working in an agency. You know, Jasmine's a storyteller. And, you know, you have like really big clients who you work closely with a month. I have a lot of clients who I do a lot of social media stuff for every month. And like, we all do different things. So it's like, who do I want to be? And, you know, you see all these people on social media with like different styles. And it's like, do I want to be like the Sam Colder travel videographer? Do I want to be the Gaku Yen who just makes like really dope, like street style videos? Like, do I want to be Volandis who makes everything look like a movie, even his vlogs? You know, so I think for me, it's just like, you know, you can't be everything. And it's the fact that you have to like kind of develop your style, whatever feels good to you, whatever you gravitate to. And for me, if that's shooting something on my phone, you know, I think my biggest inspiration is Casey Neistat. Because he did a lot in his day. Like his vlogs, he's like waking up before the sun, going to sleep about the time the sun's coming up. It's like, how does he do so much in a day? And still seem so happy and fulfilled and have so many friends and travel. And I'm like, that to me is such an inspiration that he just does a lot in a day. And whether he's shooting that moment on his phone or on a DSLR or he's in a commercial, he's just out creating every single day. So I think it was just like that moment of like, who do I want to be in this industry? Was a stressor, but also was a big breakthrough.
That's awesome. Well, you should definitely be you because you're cool.
Thank you. Thank you. As much as I want to be Say Something Productions or CK.
I think you portray very well what Casey Neistat is. It's like, oh, don't overthink, just do. And that's totally you. So I love that. Any words of advice for up and comers or people in the industry that are like, you know, overthinking, deal with imposter syndrome or just struggling in general to like really be, you know, find their voice? Like, I think that's a huge thing right now is even me, I'm like, I'm constantly struggling to figure out who the fuck I want to be.
Yeah. I think kind of along those lines of like, what's your style? Like what we do can be done so many different ways. You know, there are people making iPhone videos that are blowing my mind away. There's a, you know, the Creator just came out. That was shot on an FX3, a camera that like, there's probably one in this studio right now.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, there are so many ways to create. None of them are wrong. As long as it's true to who you are, it's something that you're proud of. It can be whatever style you want to produce. Just own your style, be proud of it, and you don't have to be the next Sam Colder or the next whoever it may be. You just have to be you. You have to develop your style and just create work that excites you.
Yeah, just have fun.
Yeah.
Literally just have fun.
Yeah, that's it.
Jon, thank you so much. Yeah,
yes, sir.
Awesome.
Jon Scotty, everybody. Appreciate you, brother.
This was fun.
Yes, sir.
And thank y'all for having me on.
Of course.
Yeah.
Peace.